Hello and welcome to Opinions Plus. Today I'd like to speak on what is good. How do you get to the good? I speak often about going to the good. Why is it that it's so bloody hard to distinguish between good and evil? I was just listening to a clip on a video about the Buddhist concepts. Buddhism speaks to the internal awareness of your value. But where does it come from? Christians speak to the light of Christ. Where does it come from? How do you know? How do you feel it? How do you get to it? The Buddhists talk about meditation. The Christians talk about prayer. How do you deal with these things? How do you deal with it? In today's world, because there's so much lies, so many lies. I've talked about in my last clip about truth. There's so much of that you have to try to understand. And your effort is to understand, not the logical premise. I think I've given up on that because there's too many people who have too broad a vocabulary, are too intelligent, who are deceived. They're deceived from what is good and what is decent. And they've been deceived throughout the centuries, don't get me wrong. There's none of the things I speak about are new to humanity. It's the same old stuff. But we have to be aware to make this society better. We have to make this society better because it's not going in the right direction. I also looked at a clip just recently about the Catholic Church and the issues about Pope Francis and how these people are just putting him down, saying he's anti-Catholic, anti-Peter, anti-all these things. Where is all this coming from? I've spoken before about Satan. Satan in the Christian community is the evil, is the instigator of all evil. And yet another clip, and I guess I do listen to a few of them, these evangelicals, they talk about evil, but they don't mention Satan. They believe in Satan, yet they don't talk about it. They don't say it. They don't, oh, this is not good, or this is, where's it coming from? Well, they believe in this. Why don't they talk about it? Why don't they say it? Why don't they say that this can be influenced by evil? Where does that evil come from? Does it come from God? Does it come from yourself? Does it come from the natural man? Where does it come from? Does it come from the devil or Satan or whatever term you want to use? I've been avoiding the term Satan because there's conflicts in that term. There's always conflicts in the human consciousness, obviously, but there is conflicts, and it's not as clear-cut as it was when I was a kid. Odd as that is, but just in the few years that I've been alive, things have changed so much, even the definitions, even the ability to focus on what was a constant, a construct of daily life, something to avoid. The satanic influences now become more questioned. They're just more input. And again, I go back to, it doesn't matter, I don't care where the influence comes from. In this case, I think the influence comes from the media like this. It just happens because people are using it to convince others. And then the people who are trying to impress upon the viewer or the receiver of this information, just like me. I'm trying to impress upon something. I'm saying that you have value in your thought process, that you do not have to rely on these so-called leaders who are not leading, that your internal truth, your Buddhist guide, your self-awareness, your light of Christ can guide you because these leaders are not guiding you. They're saying all kinds of nebulous things and whatnot, but they're not illustrating the concerns. They're not saying that this is wrong. This person is saying the wrong thing. This, they're not specifically using examples to help us through these difficult times. And why? Is it an influence of the evildoer, the influencer? I'm not telling you, yes, it is, but I'm telling you, you have tools to use to fight against it. I'm not so successful at it myself, but I know that there are tools in there. I've listened to it many times. I've had impact from it. I've seen value from it in my own life, my own approach to life. I have people who love me, care for me, trust me. Where does it come from? How does it happen? Where is the seed of love stem from? It doesn't come from the vitriol that you hear all over the place, especially from these political clowns. My gosh, and it's dominant. This Trump stuff is dominant. He's a liar, deceiver, and just a horrible human being. Now, people will love him to death and say he's the best thing since, what, cream cheese or whatever, diapers, I don't know what. But he's the best. How on earth can anybody say he's the best when, do you want your children to grow up like that? To be that type of man? To be that type of person, woman or man? I don't think so. Because everybody knows he's a liar. He's been convicted of a variety of things. He has the money and power to escape. They talk about this justice system, this tiered justice system. Well, it's not fair. Come on. It has elements of fairness to it, of course. But is it fair? Is it fair that this guy gets away with all these things because he's got money, power, prestige? That's status. Is that status good? In the Indian culture, you had, these inferior people who were just the lowest of the low. And then you had the highest of the high. And no two shall meet. Is that something new? No, it's not just the Indian culture. And that's slowly changing. But it's changing. I used to think slavery was the elimination of slavery in the world was a statement that made that the whole society is going to the good. It's becoming better, becoming aware. But I don't see that now. Yes, it is good that it's been almost universally, except for a variety of places, and especially concerning women. Women are always dominated against in one way or another, and you can't look at the Western woman as some specific example of what's happening around the world, because it's not. It's one aspect of it. It's what people can do, and is it good? Is it bad? Look at the proliferation of pornography. Is that good? Is that a benefit to women? It certainly employs a lot of women. What is going on? Well, you know what's going on. You do know. We go to the good. We know what is good. And is there good in many of the elements around us that we may perceive has a negative value? Well, there may be. You have to explore it. You have to sense it. You have to think about it. I use the term critical thinking. That's how we find it. That's how we trust ourselves, which is in sync with the Buddhist philosophy of seeking yourself, your center. And the same with the Christian philosophy. There's tremendous similarities in religions. Always has been. Foundationally, not when men get in there and start doing their little things, but foundationally, they're going to the good. They want the good. They want to improve. You see, when I heard this cardinal today talking about Pope Francis, he didn't want to go to the good. He says, I'm not going to make any statements. He was at some conference. I'm not going to make any statements, clear, crystal statements, but everything he said was against the Pope, the current Pope. Everything. Every intimation was against him. Some things were poignantly against him, but he was against him. But he didn't say, oh, I'm against him. You know, is that a leader? Is that going to the good? Are you striving for the good? You know, these evangelical preachers who just pump up this guy Trump as the Son of God are horrible. It's not true. It's not decent. It's not honorable. He isn't. And they used the thing about David, who used to, you know, went out and he was a murderer, and yet he was close to God, and Psalms were made. He was a tool. And God uses all types of people as tools. Well, Trump's a tool. Well, I vehemently disagree with that. He is not a tool. He's certainly not a tool of a creator being who wants decency and honor and love to be a part of our lives, which we all strive for to make our society better. I don't care what your religion is. You're striving to make your society better. You don't make it better with this hate. You just don't. The Christian philosophy, which I've said many times, that's my basis. Two major points. And I hear many Christians talk about it now. You know, selfless leadership and acceptance, agape. But they don't employ it. And they don't talk about the deceiver. They believe that Satan is the tempter of all things, and yet they don't talk about it. Well, how do you get by it? How do you teach people about it? You know, and just don't steal. Bad to do. But then some corporate clown can go out and steal $40 million without a problem. Hey, that's okay, it's business. No, it's not business. Of course it's not business. It's not honest, it's not decent. Has it been around for the centuries? Of course it has. Why? Because people are striving for improvement. They want a decent life on all levels. But there's other elements in there that take away from your efforts to be good. It just does. There's temptations all that abound. We have to go and strive to the good. It isn't easy. And I do agree with the person who talked about the Buddhist issues. It has to start from all of us internally, because that's where it stems from. And as a believer that there is a light of Christ in all people, there is an element in all of us to lead us to a better place. If you believe it or look at it or sense it or understand it, whatever term you want to use, go to it. Go to the good. Keep hope alive. Agape. Selfless leadership. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, subscribe, put a like in there, make a comment. Comments are good. I don't have a very high viewership, but, you know, it means something to comment. Talk about these ideas. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a good day.